What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Week 3, The Spread, Nesson.com, football picks, video podcast. We're back.
You always forget to introduce us.
I was getting to that. So we're back.
Usually, no, I'm just saying, the last few times you always introduce us in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, because it's, who cares? I mean, nobody really cares who we are. It says at the bottom.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I'm just saying.
Just
get it out of the way.
This is Andre Khatchaturian. This is Ricky Doyle. I'm Mike Cole. We're here to make some football picks. We are.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we're into week 2.
We're not very good at it. If
Which
you look at week 1.
Yeah, week 1 was not. It was a bit of a bloodbath. Ricky's leading the way with an 8-8 record, which you're actually.
I'll take that.
That's not terrible.
Yeah,
that's not terrible. I think
that.
under 500 won last year.
You got to figure week 1's a kind of a crapshoot.
It is a crapshoot
in some respects. So 8-8, solid 500.
That means the bar is set a little higher this week, though.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it moving. We're on to week 2.
One game behind was myself, 7-9, and one game behind me, 2 behind Ricky, was Andre at 6-10.
You know what's weird though?
What's that?
I hit the 4-team teaser that I talked about.
Oh,
so
yeah?
So once you hone in, basically, is what you're telling us. Once you realize your target, you usually put it between numbers.
Well,
yes.
If you think about it, nobody really bets on all 16 games.
Yeah. So I did well for myself.
And there was a ton of line movement after the fact as well. It's tough. I don't think people realize we filmed this on Wednesday. It goes up on Thursday. By Sunday, the lines are much different.
Yeah.
Actually, I meant to go back and look at how much better I did against the final lines, but nobody really cares. Speaking of lines, as always, we're getting ours from OddsShark. Most of them are the opening lines, so they are going to shift a little bit. Again, it's the best we can do. Big thanks to OddsShark. They do tremendous work, and I used the database once again this week. I got some good stats for you guys coming up, so let's get into it. As always, we're going to start with, well, not as always, because we changed it up from last week. Well, as always, we're going to showcase a few games. We did 4 last week. We're only going to do 3. We'll get in a few more later when we get to our locks and upsets and things like that.
Basically, we're going to game tempo dictate it
a
lot this year.
Considering we've already wasted a ton of time, let's get into our big must-see games this week. We're starting Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock game. Kansas City heads to Houston for an AFC West tilt. Also a rematch of the wild card round, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Last year, Houston got steamrolled at home, 30-0 by the Chiefs. Houston this week coming off a win against Chicago last week. 2.5-point favorites against a Chiefs team that struggled to beat the Chargers in overtime. Andre, who you got?
I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one,
Okay.
Mike and Ricky. I really like how the Chiefs adjusted in the second half of that game against the Chargers. Phillip Rivers only had 92 passing yards after the Chiefs made their halftime adjustments. Plus, at the end of the day, I'm always going to be, this is Brock Osweiler. I don't know. I don't have trust in him. I know he has some nice receiving threats with Hopkins and Will Fuller, but I trust Alex Smith. I like the fact that he's spreading the ball to his running backs, his tight ends, his receivers. And he never turns the ball over. I know he had a pick last game, but he's the type of guy who's not going to turn the ball over, and I'll take the Chiefs in this one.
Here's the thing about that. The Chiefs did do a nice job in the second half last week. They also had the advantage of not having Keenan Allen on the other side.
Yes.
They're not going to get as lucky this week. You mentioned Hopkins and Fuller. I think that's going to make any quarterback better than they are. So I'm actually taking Houston. I also like the revenge factor here. I think you're going to have a pissed-off Texans team that got embarrassed at home last year. People forget Brian Hoyer played quarterback in that game, threw 4 interceptions, never gave his team a chance to win. Speaking of not giving your team a chance to win, the Chiefs took back the opening kick in that game, 106 yards for a touchdown. I just think things are a little bit different this time around. J.J. Watt played 1 snap in that game. He's back. Clowney looks good. The unfortunate thing for Houston, lost Brian Cushing. But still, I like Houston win this game by – it's going to be close, but I think Houston covers in the end.
So I got to be the tiebreaker here.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm leaning with Andre. I'm going Chiefs in this one. I think they're closer to the second half team than they are the first half team. When you look back on last week, I think that's their, closer to their true identity. I also think, I was pretty impressed by what I saw from the Texans, both offensively and defensively. But in terms of, the havoc that they wreaked on Jay Cutler, that Chicago offensive line is garbage. I think that the Chiefs line will hold up a little bit better.
The Chiefs line isn't a whole lot better.
I think it's a lot better.
They're better than they were last year, but they're still. I'm going to look it up right now. They still San Diego got after the quarterback last week too. There's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, but let me add that Brock Osweiler went up against the Bears defense last week.
Yeah.
I mean, how much different is Brock Osweiler from Brian Hoyer? I mean, I don't think the difference is as much as you think it is.
Also, you mentioned that Brian Cushing injury. I think that's going to hurt him this week. I mean, you look at Travis Kelce had 2 huge games against the Texans in his career. You lose an inside linebacker like Cushing. That's going to open up the middle of the field a little bit for your tight end.
Ware was huge for the Chiefs last week too.
Another weird stat: Andy Reid's 6-0 in his career against the Texans. Just to throw that out.
There you go. Well,
I don't think it has a lot of bearing on this game, but
yeah,
in case you wanted something else to hang your hat on if you're leaning towards the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I like the Chiefs.
Chiefs,
admittedly
Chiefs.
waffled a little bit on it though, because I was pretty impressed by what I saw from the Texans last week. Finally, they'll give somebody gives the ball to Lamar Miller though.
Yeah, that's true.
They're rolling here.
What was it, like 25, 26 carries?
Yep. Chargers 3 sacks last week, so something to keep in mind. I'm a big on the offense. I'm a big on the trenches. Me and Mark Flair.
I love the trenches.
Guy wrote the book on the trenches.
Yeah.
Love the trenches.
It'll be a close one.
Love Smash Mouth.
Both
the band and the football.
Speaking of Smash Mouth,
you're an all-star.
This has the possibility of being an absolute gong show. If this was a baseball game, they would give out warnings beforehand. They still might do it. I don't even know if that's a thing in football.
Yep.
But we're going to the AFC North, a real Smash Mouth, whatever cliche you want to use, lunch pail, hard hat showdown between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers 3-point favorites here look pretty impressive Monday night against Washington, whereas Cincinnati struggled on the road against a tough Jets team. Like I said, the Steelers 3-point favorites. Ricky, which way are you leaning here?
Yeah, I mean the Jets could have easily won that game.
Yeah. They probably should.
They covered.
They should have. Yeah, I mean you look at the missed extra point, blocked 22-yard attempt. They had their chances, but I like the Bengals in this one. I think it's going to be, like you said, one of those close division AFC North games. I like them to keep it close enough. Steelers linebacker Ryan Shazier might be out.
Yep.
That's kind of up in the air right now. Bengals little staff boy 8-0-1 against the spread in the last 9 games on the road. They were very good against the spread last season, one of the best in the league. I just think that Cincinnati has the ability to exploit Pittsburgh's defense a little bit. Pittsburgh's defense looked good against the Redskins, but I think it's relative to the competition. Wouldn't be surprised if this game maybe isn't I think it's going to be like you said, knockdown, drag out, whatever, hyperbole, whatever cliche you want to use. I do think they're going to be some points scored in this, though, so I like the Bengals and a high-scored, close affair.
Okay. Andre.
Let me give you a stat. Interesting stat.
I would love for you to.
Antonio Brown, in the last 16 games with Ben Roethlisberger, 151 catches, 2,048 receiving yards.
Absurd.
Both of them will be record-breaking totals if it was a single season. As long as those two guys are together. And D'Angelo Williams is a hell of a player, too. I am not going to bet against the Steelers. I mean...
Nice little career renaissance for D'Angelo Williams, huh?
Yeah.
Just putting it together in Pittsburgh.
I love it.
I love him.
And I just still don't trust Andy Dalton no matter what. I don't get how they win these games all the time. Last week was another one of those examples. I was saying in the first episode of the spread, like they just come out and they pull out these wins and no one knows how they do it. They did it against the Jets last week and they should have lost that game. I don't think the Steelers are the type of team that's going to blow a big game like this. I'm going to take the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm not. Who am I to second guess Vegas? But they're basically saying this would be a pick 'em on a neutral site. I don't see how that's possible. I like Pittsburgh as well here. I think the Tyler Eifert injury is still looms large. The Bengals also probably might be without. I think he's up in the air. Darkey's Denard. I think he plays. I think they use him as a nickel back, which could be pretty important this week against a team in the Steelers that might be getting Marcus Wheaton back as well. No Vontaze Burfict. He's still suspended from that whole crap show that happened last year in the playoffs between these two teams. So I just look at it, I see Pittsburgh just seems like the better team.
Well, this is going to be one of those games, too, that when they play again later in the season, I don't have the schedule up, so I don't know when it is, that when you're looking at that game, you're going to be like, well, it's hard to pin too much on that Week 2 matchup because of, all the factors that you mentioned, Eifert out, and obviously you got the Steelers dealing with their suspensions on top of
right, and that's the other thing,
kind of get back in the mix a little bit.
And that's a good point with the suspensions, but they looked good enough to withstand those last week. I think they
right.
Side bet: who has more receiving yards, Brown or Green?
Brown. I can't go.
It's hard to go against Brown
exactly.
just
going up
because
against
he's
a better
playing
defense,
on another
though.
planet. But Green looked good.
Green's the only guy Dalton has to throw to.
Yeah, so I might even lean Green in this one. Although I think last week, a lot of his success is the fact that I think Darrell Reeves has lost a step or two.
I would say
Become pretty apparent. Or maybe three even.
Was,
I don't know.
He set up a few hotels, condos, a lot. He's making a village cottage out of Reeves Island. So, that's an interesting one.
I'm going to go with Green, but Steelers win the game.
Okay. Final big game. We got to figure out a name for that. What we're calling these. The big games.
We'll figure something out.
That's a week 3 adjustment.
Yeah, exactly. Sunday night, Green Bay heads to Minnesota. Big NFC North matchup. Packers road favorites here. Not too surprising given the Vikings quarterback situation, given the fact that the Packers actually looked pretty good last week. That's a much tougher win going to Jacksonville in that heat. I think that people realize that's a good team that they beat last week. So Packers 2-point favorites here. Let's start with Andre. How do you see this thing breaking down?
I'm going with the Packers. I liked what the Packers did against T.J. Yeldon, Jaguars running back last week. They held him to under 2 yards per attempt. And I think the only chance the Vikings have in this game is if Adrian Peterson goes off. So if the Packers' rush defense can contain AP, I don't see their offense scoring much. They did it in the first game. They got their 2 touchdowns from their defense. Yep. I like Aaron Rodgers to bounce back from that. Kind of struggled in that first game. But,
I thought he looked pretty good.
I thought
he had under 200 yards. That's all I mean. I mean,
that said, I think that they're going to get even better as the season goes on.
Exactly.
I still think they're getting up to speed a little bit.
They're notoriously slow starting.
Right.
And they're still, Jordy Nelson's first game in more than a year. So.
Yeah, I love the Packers pick in this game. Also trust the Packers a lot more to not turn the football over, which was the Titans' issue last year. Last week, whenever that was.
Probably struggled with it last year too.
Yeah, I mean it's the same Titans team that we've basically been seeing for a decade. But I like the Packers. I like them to roll.
Mike?
This one I see this line, and as a Packers fan, it's a little unnerving because it's one of those. What am I missing here? Yeah. Let me just double check here. Let's see. I would imagine most of the money or most of the bets are coming in on the Packers. According to Sports Insights, 84% of the wagers are coming in on the Packers. That's moved the line already up to 3. I mean, I like it a lot more at 2. If I can get it at 2 somewhere, that would be, let's put some money on that. But even at 3, I like the Packers. It's just, again, for all the reasons you guys mentioned. Again, Minnesota unsure if they'll have cornerback Xavier Rhodes. They already lost safety Michael Griffin for the season, or they put him on the injury, whatever. So those are 2 guys in that secondary I think that you would obviously like to have. 2 guys that played a lot for them last year, gave them big minutes. And like I said, I think the Packers will get a little bit better offensively as they go. I think they get a little bit better every game. And I just don't see how Minnesota necessarily scores unless, like you said, Adrian Peterson has a big game. So I like the Packers there by a touchdown, I guess. Tough little – and again, talk about revenge factor. The Packers have a little bit of revenge on their mind as well. Minnesota came into Green Bay last year, Week 17, won the NFC North. This is the first game in that brand-new stadium. I would imagine the Packers will like nothing more than to ruin that for the Vikings.
You really like revenge factor.
You are big on the revenge factor.
Yeah.
This week I am, yeah. This week
I mean, if it was...
I mean, we're talking with you 3 divisional games,
Yeah, I mean...
It's tough to call.
Okay, yeah.
And, all right, fine. Also in the revenge factor, the Packers have Jordy Nelson. They didn't have him last year.
I don't think that's revenge factor. I just think it's like you have a great wide receiver on your team.
Fine,
I agree with you.
I'm sure
the more good players, the better.
I'm sure the fact that
philosophy.
I'm sure the fact that the team that I'm sure they were paying no attention to the fact that Minnesota beat them last year, cost them the division. I'm sure no attention is being paid to that. Same in Houston.
The Packers went further in the playoffs. Packers went further in the playoffs than the Vikings.
They could have gone even farther if they had won the division, set themselves up in a little better. So whatever. I'm just saying. Fine.
All right.
Fine. Let's get into the upsets and locks. Andre, you want to start?
No, let's go with Ricky this time.
All right, Ricky, go ahead.
We'll start with the upset.
Okay.
We'll do that, and just as further evidence that I kind of fly by the seat of my pants with some of these picks. I'm going to take the Titans moments after trashing them, and I like them over the Lions. But mostly it stems from the fact that I find it hard to pick the Lions as 5.5-point favorites. I think a lot of their success last week was due to the fact they were facing a Colts team that was banged up, pretty depleted secondary. That kind of allowed Matt Stafford to go off a little bit. The Titans' offense looked pretty brutal last week, admittedly against the against the Vikings defense. But let's acknowledge that the Vikings defense is pretty good. I think they forced them into a lot of those turnovers. So I just think this week that the Titans' defense is going to pose a tougher task than the Colts' defense did for the Lions, and I'll take the points in this one. So I'd like to see Derrick Henry get a little more involved though in week 2 for the Titans.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
DeMarco Murray flew in the air though. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he flipped, but let's get this two-headed monster rolling.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to do your upset or you want him to finish off?
Sure. I'll go with
Okay.
I have to go upset right now.
Yeah,
Let's do a round of upsets, and we'll circle back.
All right, my upset of the week. I like the Browns over the Ravens, not just to cover, but to win.
Wow.
I think Josh McCown is an upgrade over RG3 at quarterback. What do you mean?
I agree with you.
I think in the long run, you're right, but it's also a new system. I think that's important to.
I agree with you, and I'm also wondering why is that such a hot, like why don't more people feel that way?
Well,
because I saw like the
most people aren't very smart like you and me, I guess.
There's only so few of us in the world, and so few in this room. But no, I look at that Browns team, and I think they have percentage points to have the worst record and land the number 1 pick rose by like 6% according to like some ESPN Power Index or something. And I'm thinking to myself that they're a better team with Josh.
Yeah, I agree. Last year, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks. His only win of the season came against the Ravens. He could have had 2 wins against the Ravens had it not been for that crazy ending in that Thursday night game last year. You remember that?
Yeah.
He's good against the Ravens. I'm going to take, McCown and the Browns. The McBrowns.
Banged up Ravens team last year.
I understand that.
I don't hate that pick. I
don't see anything special about the Ravens this year. You're older.
Mike Wallace, I like that pickup.
I do like it.
And I think with Cleveland's secondary a little bit depleted, that might be a big play potential on Sunday. But I don't hate that pick. My upset, I got lucky on this one. I kind of got this in before you guys did, or at least before Ricky did. I like Jacksonville, which is technically an upset. They're 2-point dogs in San Diego. San Diego stinks at home. They're miserable at home. I've got numbers to back it up, but I forget what they were. It's something like they haven't covered the last 7 times as home favorites. They've outright lost a handful of them. It's not good news. Mike McCoy on the hot seat. That place is a joke right now.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's out. Mike McCoy.
I would be surprised if he gets to Halloween at this rate.
I mean,
Chargers don't fire their coaches though.
What's the point? I guess.
Except if it's Marty Schottenheimer, then they got rid of him after a 14-2 season.
So that's something that plays in here. I thought nice job starting last week, terrible job finishing.
Yep.
Again, you said Keenan Allen. Also, I like Jacksonville. I think they played pretty well last week. They're going to go out there. I don't think they're going to be intimidated. I would like to see what they do with Yeldon. You mentioned Yeldon. The Packers kept him in check last week. You know what the Chargers didn't do last week was keep Spencer Ware in check. Maybe he plays a similar role this week. Yeldon does, so I like the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm glad you added the little caveat that you got that pick in before us, because that was the one that jumped off the page. Me and Andre were talking about it the other day yesterday of just how that line came to be.
Yeah, that's one. If you're actually putting money on it, you better get it soon, because that seems like stealing.
Locks, Ricky.
Lock. I'm liking the Seahawks over the Rams. And I understand, there's some uncertainty surrounding Russell Wilson with that ankle injury. But this isn't about who's playing quarterback for Seattle as much as it's about who's playing quarterback for LA. And really who's doing much of anything for LA. And that's really nobody. I just don't see how the Rams...
They'll be better, though. I think they'll be better.
I just don't see how they score against Seattle's defense.
I agree.
And the fact that the line is Seattle favorite by 3.5. And I get the whole pageantry of the first game back in LA and all that crap, but I'm just going to take the better football team.
You know who's also back in LA is Pete Carroll, so
there you go.
He's going to love his home Coliseum.
Revenge factor.
Not revenge factor, just I don't know. I think he's comfortable at the old
yeah, it's basically
Roman
Seattle's
Coliseum.
Defense and the Rams offense, and the fact that one's very good and one's very bad.
All right, I'm going to go with my lock, Raiders over the Falcons. This line started at, 6.5, and now it's at -4.5. I don't get why it's shifting towards the middle. I think the Raiders are a fantastic team, and the Falcons don't get any pressure on the quarterback. They had no sacks last week, last in the league in sacks last year. And you give Derek Carr time with all his weapons, he's going to do well. So I'll take the Raiders, sorry.
I like it. And my lock, actually, now that I'm looking at it, I did have Houston as my lock. We already talked about that, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I also like Denver. I don't understand that line at all. I wrote that in the picks column this week. 4.5-point favorites at home against Indy. That's already probably shifted a little bit. Let me just check that. It's up to 6. I like it at 6 anyway. Denver's defense is good. Indianapolis doesn't do a very good job protecting its quarterback. Doesn't play very good defense, even with Trevor Siemian. I like Denver to cover that. So, anyway.
All right.
Let's get into the little props parlay. We'll go real quick here. Do you have anything for a prop or a parlay this week?
I do. I have the 3-team 10-point teaser.
Okay.
So I like the Bucks plus 16.5 against the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a close game.
Yep.
It's not going to be a three
Right,
touchdown
that's good.
game.
Yeah.
Raiders, I already mentioned why, plus 5.
Getting
And the
points.
Jaguars plus 13. These is a 10-point teaser, so you get minus 110 odds.
That's really good. I like that. I might get it on that myself. I hit my parlay last week, 5-team parlay, 50 to win 208. I'm doing another 5-team parlay this week. Let's see if we can ride with it. Pats, this is all money line. Pats minus 290, Giants minus 210 over the Saints, Panthers 750 over the 49ers, Oakland 205. We already talked about Oakland and the Packers. So that's 50 to win 241 this week.
I like a couple over-unders, a couple overs.
I do too this week. I'm probably on the same page as these.
Falcons, Raiders, 49.5. I like that to go blow past it. Cardinals, Bucks. The over-under is 50. I like the over on that as well.
Oh.
I think the Cardinals offense is going to look a lot better this week. Bucks team looked pretty good last week. Jameis Winston looks like he might be the real deal.
Yep.
So,
I like.
You're a big fan of offense. It's a couple of high-octane teams right there. So I like those overs. Keep an eye on those.
Also, if I can add one real quick,
Sure.
when it comes to overs, I also like the Giants Saints.
Yeah.
Over-under is at 52. I like the over on that. Those teams just score a crap load of points when they
Yes.
play. All right, let's get to show and tell before we get out of here. Ricky, why don't you start us off?
I will start us off, and I will do so.
He's pumped.
I got a little dice.
Oh.
By rolling the old dice across the table because I loved Jack Del Rio's decision to roll the dice and go for 2 in the win last week against the Saints. Sean Payton said that he probably would have done the same thing in that situation.
Which is a great thing to say as the team that just lost. Be like, I would have done the same thing.
Right. But Andy Reid, he kind of faced a similar situation in the game against the Chargers, said that he wouldn't have done it. Obviously, he didn't do it.
He's still trying to figure out the clock.
That's what I mean. So it's really it's coach by coach basis. But I want to see more teams do this.
Well, Tomlin was doing it a lot last year.
Yeah, and I want to see
not
more
at
of
the
it.
end of the
I
game.
like it. I dig it.
If we can get it, it's the right play because the odds are about the same. I imagine is that you're keeping it, you're controlling it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And,
it's in your own power.
And I like it. And I like it from the Raiders' standpoint because this is a team who came in pretty lofty expectations for a team that hasn't accomplished a whole lot in the past few years, and they kind of set the tempo of we're going to push the envelope, play with some balls here. So I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked the whole roll of the dice.
Andre, show and tell.
I brought a white towel. This is actually a napkin, but white towel. This is for all the teams in the AFC East, not named the Patriots. They should start waving it already because have you ever seen a must-win game in the week 2? The Dolphins have that this week, and I mean, if they don't win this game, they're basically. I mean, the Patriots clinched the division, which I think they already have.
The Dolphins must have pissed off somebody with the control or with the power to make the schedule. Tough sledding.
It's just horrible.
Seattle 1 week, at Seattle, across the country to play New England. That's not fun.
It's a shame the Jets and Bills are playing each other. Otherwise, it'd be nice to see the Pats jump out to a 2-game lead right out of the chute. Kind of
put a little X
and
by their
no
name
one
on
really
the
surprised
NFL
anybody.
standings.
Keep Brady on ice. All right, I like
What is
that.
that you got over there, man?
I printed out my show and tell. It is a chair on fire. I would not like to get arrested for arson. Otherwise, I would have set my own chair on fire.
I was going to say, did you? But did you Google? You didn't do this out in your back?
No, this is a good
That is in your rocking chair.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna. They're probably gonna take a couple bucks out of my paycheck this week for using the color ink.
Check the Watertown fire log.
A lot of color ink.
Looks like it's still wet.
Yeah, this is probably.
It ain't even dry on that.
That's a chair on fire, aka the hot seat. I think there are 3 head coaches on the hot seat with losses this week. Starting Thursday night, if Buffalo gets its ass handed to it at home against the Jets, falls to 0-2, Rex Ryan, you're in trouble. We already talked about in San Diego, if Jacksonville goes in and throttles the Chargers, Mike McCoy, you might want to start updating your resume. And if Denver absolutely shellacks the Colts Chuck Pagano might want to get on careerbuilder.com. So I think those are 3 guys that if their teams get their heads kicked in this week, they could be in trouble. So a lot at stake this week for week 2.
I like it, Mike.
Yeah.
Anything else, guys?
You know what doesn't get any easier for the Bills either? Cardinals, Pats in the following 2 weeks. So there's a good chance you're looking at Buffalo 0-4 and the Ryan brothers finding something to do.
This picture also represents what Rex Ryan has done to the Buffalo offense. Just set it on fire, not the good kind of fire. So that's it.
So I'm guessing you're taking the Jets on Thursday.
Yeah, I am taking the Jets on
Yeah,
Thursday.
so am I.
Let's
Like the Jets.
Oh, don't forget to click on the link below, guys, to go out to read more picks and analysis.
Yep, and also feel free to check out the HurryUpNets.com's weekly football show. It's good stuff. That's it.
Yep.
Let's get out of here, guys.
See you later, guys.
It's been real. See you guys next week.